How do you think Logan and Mayweather is going to do on the buy?
Fantastic.
Even though Logan lost to a YouTuber in boxing,
yes,
and now he's fighting the greatest boxer of all time.
I believe it. Yes, because
what do you think? How do you think the end result's still going to be? Not the results of the fight, but just the end result of the pay-per-view and the revenue.
I think you're going to see another record shattering. Absolutely. I don't believe anybody's because. Again, you're talking about a small amount of individuals. When you start, you're starting to see them converting. And so look, the feather in the cap, the he who laughs last best is. I got to go back to it. That their namesake, their voice was Ariel. That was his point of getting on the show of the purist, and I'm this and this and this. Hey, we've got him on. He's on our side. That's like taking one of the, if you want to talk politics, that's like having somebody that was really high Republican. All of a sudden, he's, hey, I'm on the Democrat side. This is we got him. He's on our side now, guys. You know what I mean? He's about making that money and doing that entertainment. So who's your purist guy? Who is it? Because they don't have a voice anymore. So who's it? So now everybody's went down. So now with nobody even having a voice that's being able to do that. Where are they going to go? It's crazy, right? Yeah. He called me out. They did all this stuff, and man, you got the whole gambit. The whole thing was done in, it was done, rather scientifically. Wow, who could imagine that one? So, it does take it does take some time and read and understand. One of my favorite books is Art of War, and just to sit back and read it and just say, okay, hey, you think you win that one? Watch, I can be real quiet and come right back and get you. So,
And the thing is, I'm not trying to bash the MMA media here. Obviously, I had Dan on the podcast, and he did enough of that for all of us. I'm not trying to bash the MMA media here, but I will say this: there has been a lot of MMA media journalists who have made a lot of money and headlines off fighters complaining about not getting paid from organizations.
Yes.
Now, mind you, let's look at this from a surgical aspect here. You're talking about journalists and MMA sites that are putting headlines out, getting millions of views, making tons of money from content and a story from a fighter, and giving none of that money to the fighter.
Yes, sir.
Because this fighter is getting taken advantage of an organization that's paying the fighter exactly what the fighter signed a contract for. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But it's always the media is kind of the hero and the fighters, the organizations are not. But the organizations aren't forcing people to sign contracts. They're not putting guns to their head. Dana's not putting guns. And I'm not defending the organizations. Everybody, we all should have, or maybe wanted to make more money. It's entertainment and all that. But if I sign a contract now that I'm in business, I know if I sign a contract, I'm in a fucking contract.
Yes, sir.
And the UFC puts those contracts out because they're banking on that fighter during the process of that contract to become bigger than what they're paying.
That's right.
And that's the risk they're taking by paying the money that they're paying so that they can maybe make a little bit more before they have to renegotiate. And then the fighters get big, and the first two fights win big fights, and they become celebrities over the media. Mm-hmm. And then they want more money and change their contract. And then they talk bad about the UFC, they talk bad about Dana, and then where does that put them on the negotiations for the second contract? Right. When you could have just fought your contract out and then possibly had a negotiated a new contract with leverage. But the media will sit there. I mean, going beyond that, the UFC and other organizations, they pay what you signed and shook hands on and agreed to, if not more. I can sit here and say, with facts to prove it if I had to, if you look at the contracted amount of money that I was promised by the UFC in my entire career, I've made more. Mm-hmm. And not only have I made more, but I've built a career for myself after UFC. Right. People know who I am, and that's right. The marketing, so it's like I can't complain about the situation. And when I sign a contract, I live by it. But I'll tell you what, the media and the journalists have never paid me a penny.
That's right.
No matter how many headlines I've given them, no matter how many times I gave them that secret nudge of who I'm fighting,
facts.
They
taking the time out of your hardcore
Yeah.
training schedule, taking time from your family, taking all of that time, and got there.
Doing an hour interview with them.
That's right.
Making a headline, doing millions of views. And the thing is, and I get like, okay, if the fighter wants to bitch about this and they want to do this and it's going to be headlines, your media, that's your job. Do the fucking story and come on the podcast. And I understand. But when the journalists get behind the fighter and they start talking shit too, and they're like, yeah, you're getting taken advantage of, and yeah, and they sensationalize it, and they put the headline in this certain way that makes the organization look so bad that has the contract or whatever. Then to me, it's kind of like, shut the fuck up. Like, how much have you given the fighter?
Correct.
Do you know what I mean? Like, all of you guys are in business because the fighters are giving you stuff.
Yes.
And I've never been paid by the media. I've never been paid for an article. I've never been paid for a headline. I've never been paid for a video. And I understand that's the way it works, but don't take sides. And you know what I mean? And so it's like, so the fighters don't think about that. You know, they don't think about that. And
well, my thing is,
I'm not trying to bag on the media, which I am, but it's just the facts. I mean, it's just the facts. Ask any fighter if they've been paid by the media. Ask any fighter.
The majority of them, they're not.
When they've had huge headlines.
I have been paid by the media on some.
I get it in certain aspects, right? So, like for instance, when Arrow went to do the Conor McGregor interview in Ireland, I'm sure he got paid for that. There's certain things that they've gotten paid for, but I'm just saying they never. And I'll tell you another thing. Not to keep bashing, but now I'm on a roll here. They don't cover. So yeah, they'll say, oh, but we make the fighter more famous because we put him out there. But no, that's not the case.
Right.
If you were trying to make the fighter more famous, they would have covered you in Africa.
That's right.
When you were doing charity work.
That's right.
They would have covered me after I got all the headlines that I gave them. They would have covered me doing all those military support tours.
Yes.
I was in Afghanistan multiple times, Iraq during the war, supporting the troops. Djibouti, Germany, at the medical center in Germany, putting people in the C-17 or C-17s to transport them to Walter Reed. I was going to Walter Reed and visiting the wounded warriors and doing all that. No articles. No articles.
That's right.
They never come back to help you back.
That's right. Zero. And you know,
so I mean,
or they want to
if
do
you want to
something.
look at that's something that irks me and bothers me because it's like the fighters don't realize that and they pour their souls out. And I get, I'm part of the media too with the podcast. I understand. There's going to be headlines. There's going to be money to be made, and there's going to be stories.
Yes.
But the journalists that I've seen, the hypocritical journalists that I see that do these certain headlines and get behind the fighters and try to make certain organizations and people like whatever look so bad, should shut the fuck up.
That's right.
They should shut their fucking mouth to do the article and let the fighter talk or let the person talk. And then if they want to show appreciation back to that person, do an article that's nice.
That's right.
Fucking show what they've done.
That's
do an
right.
article about the UFC and these other organizations and even the Tyson or whatever. How going through the COVID.
Yes.
And working their asses off to keep these fighters working and making money. Do an article about that.
Yeah.
Where are those articles at? Do an article about the fighters having to fight under the extreme conditions that they're having to fight under with quarantine right now, and leave with their families and travel to Fight Island and be there for weeks at a time. Where's those articles?
Zero.
There's no articles. But if one of them fucks up and does something stupid or gets in trouble or has a dispute against somebody or there's controversy, headlines.
Yeah,
Headlines.
that's right.
And that bothers me.